folks, welcome back to Viper Island. In today's episode, we're going to reveal our prediction for the 2025 G.I. Joe HasLab. You might recall that in the summer of 2023, we told you the Cobra Rattler would be the 2024 G.I. Joe HasLab, and we called it over a year before Hasbro's official announcement. We made that call based on bits of information we'd learned, and everything that we knew pointed to the Rattler being the HasLab. Now let's make this clear, this prediction is just for fun. At this moment, just like everyone else, we don't know what the 2025 G.I. Joe HasLab will be, but we feel confident that we may have figured out the lead candidate. And it even links to other parts of Classified, which are coincidentally being worked on right now as well. We'll cover all of it, and by the end of this episode, we feel you'll agree with our prediction. Let's dive into what we're thinking for the 2025 G.I. Joe HasLab and why. The first thing to consider is the already established pattern for HasLabs. Since G.I. Joe HasLabs were first introduced in 2021 with the Sky Striker, Hasbro's been alternating between Cobra and Joe projects each year. While this could just be a coincidence, the Hasbro team has made references to this pattern many times, with G.I. Joe and Cobra going tit for tat each year to counter the other side's latest project. So we can put some stock into this pattern holding firm based on comments from the G.I. Joe team. And of course this pattern makes sense as it satisfies G.I. Joe collectors and Cobra collectors evenly. The pattern is not guaranteed to continue forever, but we will use this as a logical starting point. And that automatically eliminates any Cobra projects from consideration for 2025. We believe the 2025 G.I. Joe HasLab will be all about the Joes. One important note to pay attention to is that Hasbro's made it clear they're focusing on air and land vehicles right now, not water-based ones. Many collectors want a Cobra Moray or even the G.I. Joe Whale hovercraft. A water-based HasLab vehicle will need to float without any issues. This means that Hasbro would need to ensure that any water-based HasLab vehicle is waterproof in order to protect any electronics. And as we've seen, these have become a standard feature of G.I. Joe HasLabs. This is significant because electronics complicate the engineering process even further than normal, and that adds cost. Making a water vehicle is complex, especially with lights and electronics that would require waterproofing. The risk of mixing water and electronics likely outweighs the upside here. Hasbro doesn't want the hassle, and it would be hard to blame them given all the considerations that we know. So as much as some people really want water-based vehicles, there's been no indication that Hasbro's changed their mind just yet. Their focus is only on land and air vehicles right now, and while that won't hold forever, we're crossing any water-based options off the list. But how does Hasbro pick their HasLab projects? Lenny from the G.I. Joe team at Hasbro has said that they ask focus groups a series of questions to probe them on what they'd want. With the focus groups, Hasbro discusses price points, designs, styles, tier options, and included features as well. Hasbro collects feedback and gathers inspiration from the focus groups. Lenny said they don't just follow and do exactly what the focus groups say, but rather they listen to and learn from the focus groups. They then take the information they learn and plan for the future. Roughly about a year ago, Hasbro held some secret focus groups about the HasLab, and the Cobra Rattler was included as one of the 4 options. There were 3 other vehicles shown to focus group members, and we expect all of them to show up in Classified in the near future. But it doesn't mean that the other 3 will all be considered for HasLab. Lenny has spilled some inside details on Hasbro's approach to HasLab projects, making it clear that their goal is not to simply remake old designs. He's not the one designing the vehicles himself, that's a whole different team at Hasbro. But Lenny did have a hand in crafting the Rattler figures, and as for the overall vibe, Lenny has said that their plan is to capture the essence of the classics, then update, streamline, and make them sleeker and more stylish for today's fans. In other words, modernize them. With the Rattler, for example, they gave it a sleek makeover with beefier wings compared to the original. While the classic jet engines had a sci-fi vibe, the Cobra Rattler HasLab features jet engines that are inspired by real-world tech. It's all part of Hasbro's mission to modernize while keeping that nostalgia intact, and even throw in some fresh brand new vehicles into the lineup that collectors have not seen before. As for how they decide what goes to retail versus a HasLab exclusive, Hasbro has said that pricing plays a big role. HasLab projects are meant to be dream pieces, the kind of epic stuff that just can't hit retail shelves. Lenny has mentioned that while they aim to keep things affordable, quality always takes the front seat. They have to weigh and consider everything from size and scale to how easily it fits in a box. And let's not forget the engineering challenges. Hasbro's G.I. Joe team has said that anything that can easily be made for retail won't be considered for HasLab projects. Just this past year, they admitted that the 2021 Sky Striker HasLab, which was made for new O-ring figures, should never have been a HasLab, and that they'll never do that again. And ever since the Sky Striker, they've swung big with the Hiss Tank, Dragonfly Helicopter, and the Cobra Rattler. According to members of the Hasbro team, the G.I. Joe Snowcat and the Dreadnought Thunder Machine are both considered retail items. They don't fit into the parameters for the G.I. Joe HasLab. Neither one can be considered a dream project. And both are retail sized, just like the Vamp and Cobra Stinger. The Thunder Machine is a Cobra item anyway, so we'll cross that one off the list. And based on comments from the Hasbro G.I. Joe team, we're also going to rule out the Snowcat for HasLab. So on to the big moment, our prediction for the G.I. Joe HasLab. We are calling the G.I. Joe Mobat as the next HasLab project, and here's why. First of all, as we've just covered, it's a Joe land vehicle. Storyline-wise, a big beefy tank like the Mobat would perfectly counter the Hiss Tank and give the Joe side some serious power. We expect it would feature workable treads just like the Hiss Tank. Second, it would provide a meaningful completion of the original 13. In a recent interview, members of the G.I. Joe team said that there will be more green shirt OG figures just like retro rock and roll in the near future. Steeler, the Mobat's original driver, could come alongside other original 13 members like Short Fuse, Zap, and possibly even Colonel Hawk. The G.I. Joe team has demonstrated that they truly understand the draw and appeal of major characters being tied to their HasLab projects, like having an exclusive Cobra Commander attached to the Hiss Tank, and an exclusive Baroness being attached to the Rattler, so it makes sense for Hasbro to also include a Joe leader with the Mobat. Including either 3 or 4 of the original 13 members in Steeler, Short Fuse, Zap, and possibly Colonel Hawk would definitely help complete the OG 13 ranks in a meaningful way and also make the Mobat a must-have for classic Joe fans. Retro versions can be released in the future, but including all 4 of these characters, or even just 3 of them, would make the most sense here. Third, Hasbro's been experimenting with a base versus a deluxe offering approach, and they did this recently with the Ghostbusters HasLab for their car, and we could easily see Hasbro following suit with the Mobat. If so, this would mean there would be a base version of the Mobat with Steeler, or collectors would also have another option of getting a deluxe with all figures and tiers attached. Anyone buying multiples would really not have that much use for extra figures, and offering a base version with just the driver would allow collectors to army build HasLab projects at an affordable rate. And straightforward logic would say that this should increase their sales. So we'll keep an eye on this and see whether Hasbro continues to experiment with a base versus a deluxe offering. And another point of rationale here is that insider hints all point to the Mobat. Focus group discussions have provided a lot of insight into Hasbro's future plans, and in secret HasLab focus group discussions this past year, the Mobat was listed as one of 4 vehicles that Hasbro had created renders for. The other vehicles were the Cobra Rattler, the Dreadnought Thunder Machine, and the Snowcat. The Rattler was the most popular option, followed by, you guessed it, the Mobat. As mentioned, the Thunder Machine and Snowcat are both expected in the near future, but members of the Hasbro team have said in interviews more than once that those specific vehicles do not qualify as HasLabs, and that they can easily be made for retail, just like the Vamp and Stinger. Based on details and information that we've learned, everything points to the Mobat as the 2025 G.I. Joe HasLab. We've even seen hints on Hasbro's patches for the Rattler, which strongly suggest that the Mobat's tank battles will be a big part of upcoming releases. As we learned from their secret focus group discussions, Hasbro has already created plans and designs for the Mobat. It's not a maybe or any speculation. It's confirmed that these do exist. We also know that Hasbro has plans to complete the original 13 lineup in the near future, and it seems logical that OG 13 characters would be included with the Mobat. We strongly believe that the next HasLab will be a G.I. Joe land vehicle, in particular a tank, with the intention of countering the Hiss Tank. The Rattler and Dragonfly are meant to pair together, and the Hiss Tank and Mobat are natural rivals. So we're standing by our early call that the Mobat is the leading candidate for the 2025 HasLab. It's still early, so Hasbro could definitely change their plans or even introduce something new. But just like a year ago, when everything that we had learned pointed towards the Cobra Rattler, a lot of clues and secret information are pointing towards the Mobat. So until we learn something different, we're going to stick with our early call that the Mobat is the leading candidate for the G.I. Joe HasLab in 2025. We have a lot more to come in this episode, but first, it's your turn. Drop a comment and let us know if the Mobat is a must-have for your collection and what features you'd love to see. We've got time until Hasbro makes their final call, so now's your opportunity to let your voice be heard and hopefully influence them in the right direction. Electronics and headlights would absolutely be an essential feature for a project like this. In terms of figures, Steeler makes sense, whereas Short Fuse and Zap are not major characters and don't really have a lot of demand outside of the fans of the original 13. So we could see both of them being included in a HasLab project, similar to how a lesser-known character like Quarrel was paired with a major character in Lieutenant Falcon for the Night Force 2-pack. As for Colonel Hawk, there's a lot less demand for him than there was for General Hawk, and he makes a lot of sense to be paired with another project like either this or a G.I. Joe MMS. So do you agree with us that the Mobat will be the 2025 G.I. Joe HasLab? Or do you have another idea that we've overlooked? Are there other characters you'd like to see paired with the Mobat? If so, sound off and let us know what you're looking forward to for a G.I. Joe HasLab in 2025. If you're enjoying this, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. But now let's switch over to the 2024 HasLab. We're going to reveal our ratings for the Cobra Rattler, including reviews and our official ratings for each of the figures and tiers. We haven't given our ratings just yet, so we hope you enjoy. So Dex, I want to get your reaction, but there were 3 different figures attached to this, plus some patches. Wild Weasel was the main character that came with this, then there were also 2 other tiers, the Cobra Rattler Gunner, and then Pilot Baroness. So Dex, let's get your reactions. Let's start with the Cobra Rattler Gunner.
I really like his helmet, all the designs he has on it, and it looks like really cool and it stands out a lot. And I like how he has 2 different head sculpts, because usually we don't have that for most of the pilots.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting figure, but he does go well with the Rattler, so he's more of a complementary figure that goes with the Rattler, right? As opposed to a standout. Like, Wild Weasel stands out even though he's the pilot. And let's talk about Wild Weasel.
I like that they actually have 2 different types of helmets now, one that's battle damage and then one that you can put on him, because it looks really cool when you have the battle damaged one, because it makes it seem like he was just in a battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks gnarly, right?
We need more of the battle damage helmets in my opinion, because the only other one that I can think of is just the Cobra Bat.
Yeah, you're right. The bats do have battle damage. Yeah, good point, Dex. That would be great to see.
Let's talk about Baroness.
Sure, let's do that. What are your thoughts on this brand new sculpted Pilot Baroness?
I like her pistols a lot with the gold on them, and the sniper rifle looks really good. I also like that she comes with 3 sets of hair.
Yeah, and they're a different look, right? Like, one, her hair's up, it's a different type of hairstyle than we've had before for her, so that's great. We definitely appreciate brand new parts and pieces. And then that headset that she's got, I like that sort of thing. Hopefully it's sturdy and it's not too floppy where it sticks out sort of like Chuckles, I think. His was a little soft.
I do not like her helmet, though. I don't like the yellow. I don't think it goes with her at all. I don't care what it's from. It does not look good. Why do you have 3 of the same helmets, though, in one, like, set? I would spread them out if you're going to do that and have different ones, because I don't want to have 3 of the same ones, but just different repaints.
Well, to that point, Dex, you're right. It is based on something from the past. You'd rather see a different color, or
just a different, like, shape of it and color, because I don't want 3 of the same helmet just with a repaint on it.
Okay, that's fair enough. And now let's talk about the Cobra Rattler. We've covered this a lot on the channel so far, but we haven't given our reaction yet. It's got battle damage plates, so you can see kind of inside, and there's an orangey glow, so we can assume that there's some fire in there, and that's the battle damage for the Rattler itself. It's got rotatable wings for VTOL liftoff, and foldable wings, which fold upright for easier storage, so there are a lot of updates to this. It's not the same old Rattler, but it does look similar. It's just modernized, and it's also based on real-life jet parts now. Dex, let's get your take on the Cobra Rattler. What do you think?
I really like all the missiles that it comes with and, like, the sculpting of it. I think it looks really cool and how realistic it looks. But it's not for me. I'm not a fan of it. It looks cool, but I think it's just a basic jet. I don't think the patches are really useful. What are you going to put them on? Like, there's nothing really to put them on that will look good. You don't have enough of them for it to look cool or anything. And you're not going to put it with, like, other ones because there's only 3 of them. You can't buy more of them. And just 2 figures, that's not that much. You should have way more things like the Hiss Tank.
And how do you think the Rattler compares to the Hiss Tank and the Dragonfly HasLabs?
I like the Hiss Tank the most out of all of them because I think that it comes with the best stuff, in my opinion, and it just looks the coolest because it actually looks like G.I. Joe. It doesn't look like an army thing. Like, I get people want realism, but, like, it's G.I. Joe.
You're saying fun has to be a bigger priority.
When I'm spending $300, I don't want a replica of some plane that's already out there. You can probably buy those. How much was it?
It's $325 US. $325 US, which comes to closer to 500 or more Canadian with shipping and all that. Dex, what grade would you give the Cobra Rattler HasLab project?
I would give it a 7 out of 10. I'm not a fan of it. When you're spending $300 on something, I better be getting more than just 3 figures. And that, not even tiers. 3 figures and the thing with no tiers. There should be other stuff, like, you should be getting like 5 figures for that price. I would prefer buying the figures for $30 to $40 to begin with, and then buying it by itself.
I don't agree with that.
I'm not spending $250 on a jet. I don't think it's worth it with all the unlockables and stuff. It's pretty plain if you ask me. I don't care how big it is or how cool it looks. I think it looks boring like a normal jet, and it doesn't even have anything like... I think it should have at least like engines that can spin if you're spending that much with nothing else with it.
So this is why you prefer the HasLab His Tank and the Dragonfly over the Rattler?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
They actually came with fun things, not just 2 boring guys for tiers.
You don't like the patches?
The patches are pointless. What are you gonna put them on, a blanket?
And there you have it. You've made it to the end of this episode, and we really appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. And we would love it even more if you take just 1 second of your time. Make sure that down below you are subscribed to the channel. We ask that you do, because that guarantees that we definitely get to see you back here again next time. Thanks for tuning into Viper Island, your one-stop shop for all things G.I. Joe. When there's relevant news, we'll be here to discuss all of it, together with you. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, have a great day, and yo Joe!